All right, guys. I got Ed here today. This is your girl, Beverly Francois Alston, and welcome to the grind. Um, we got on, but we don't know what happened, so it is what it is. And so, for those of you who are viewing or will be viewing, thank you and welcome. Welcome to the grind. Our special guest today is Mr. Ed Iannucci. Hi, Ed. Ed was just he and I we were having like this real major conversation about age thing, and he was telling me that he was going through so much, and it was so funny though, Ed. But such is life, right?
It is.
Such
It
is
is.
life. But I was just telling them how great you look for your age and how fit you are and the person that I know you to be. My God, both you and your wife. I know both of you to be really fit and always doing things and having such a great family. And I'm so happy to have you here on the show, on the podcast today. Um, I want to get into this right away. What we do before we get into anything is we do a background check. And here's how we do our background check on the grind behind the business. I normally will paint a picture of what I want you to discuss at a certain age. So today, I want to choose age 21. It's not 18, because 18, we think we're grown. You still got about 3 to 4 years to get there. At 21 is the age where everyone go, oh my gosh, I can do whatever I want. I can move out. I can. This is the age that I want you to bring to the forefront. Your background. What was happening at that time?
When I was
Ed,
21,
at 21, sir.
you want me
What?
to get arrested? I don't think those
Give
crimes have a
us
statute of limitation.
just a tad view of how that looked. Where were you, Ed? What were you doing? Were you home living with parents at that time? Were
I
you
was
out
living with my parents.
partying, finding
Living with my parents.
yourself?
No, listen, all that stuff
Yeah.
happened in between work.
Uh-huh.
Whatever full-time job I had, I worked in the nightclubs. I mean, I
Right.
was running a karate school
Yeah.
at 21, and it was in South Philly, and a very large father of one of my students asked me if I wanted to do some work on the weekend for a big
Mm-hmm.
guy. I was doing a self defense demonstration, and this fellow was impressed. He said, for a 240-pound guy, you can move. You want to make some money on the weekend. And at that age,
Mm-hmm.
I was all about it. Like, it was just an absolute yes.
Oh, wow.
So I wasn't just out clubbing, I was working in the clubs. And being a Delaware County boy, I was going into the city to work, and my friends were kind of jealous because I was seeing some interesting stuff. I mean, there was fights, there was drugs, there was girls. I mean, there was everything. And I used to come back to Delaware County with these stories,
Yeah.
and they literally felt guilty. I mean, I felt like envious because they didn't experience it with me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd come back, they'd see my knuckles broke, they'd see my shirt ripped. Because bouncing in those clubs, we used to get in fights all the time.
Oh my
I mean, it
goodness.
was just, I tell you what, I don't regret a thing I did at 21, but I sure as hell at this point in my life would not want to go back to it.
Right. Now that you know what you know, it's
You're pretty much given, it's like if your parents handed you a razor blade when you were 6,
yeah.
you'd probably be bleeding.
Yeah.
At 20, handing a kid the age of 21 is like handing a toddler a razor blade. If they don't come out of it with cuts, scars, and lessons, they're never going to come out of it. And they're
At
always going
all.
to be irresponsible.
Yeah.
It's where you learn life.
Wow. Yeah. And that's like something that you have always stood by. A lot of the lessons I can tell because I've known you not just from the security business that you have presently. We have a history. I
Right.
know you from way back where my daughter went to your karate school,
Right.
and you have helped my daughter when she was at that tender age, that teenage age. 12, 13, coming to karate, and it was a lot of influence that you had on her life. And I've always heard you talk about your experience and the things that you've learned, and you've passed it down not just to the adults and the people around you and motivating them, but to the kids. I've seen kids gravitate to you and learn so much from you based on the experience that you've had in the past years. So I know it's rich. I want to just break down some of it, some of the experiences that you've had. So, first of all, I wanted to talk about Kim's Karate because I wanted them to know it's just not only security. Ed's got some skills here, okay? So, um, yeah, because you came to our church and introduced yourself to our church, and a lot of kids,
Pastor Lambert introduced me to that church, if I
yes,
remember
which we were
correct.
so thankful because most of our kids needed an outlet, needed the discipline. So you want
They
to
also
tell us a
needed a
little bit
male.
about that? Yeah,
They also needed a male.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
They
the
needed the
biggest part,
influence. Yeah,
biggest part of the Black American community is
yeah.
the kids are being raised 80% by the women. It's
Mm,
not just the moms, it's moms, grandmoms, aunts, and a mentality that you don't need a man, you don't need a man.
yeah,
And there's a theory to that I do respect, but
right.
in essence, yes, you need a man. You need a male influence. And we serve to that. And I always thought, because of my own experience in martial arts, my own experience growing up, my father's still alive and still very healthy. And I'm thankful for that. But I had a lot of fathers in my life. I had a lot of different
Mm,
fathers in a lot of different compartments, if you will, where I had different fathers in different areas of life that I entered. I have my own Mr. Miyagi story as a teenager, but his name was Mr. Chang. And he had literally an Oriental gift shop and a farmer's market that was open on Fridays and Saturdays. I mean, it, it, I always looked for that other adult, even though I have both my parents.
yeah,
Every adult you learn from, in the indigenous people tribe, the Indians, like all the different tribes and in different countries,
yeah,
they would refer to older people as father or
yeah,
uncle,
yeah.
and the older women as grandmom or auntie, and because they were all a family and they all took leadership. Even that joke about the good and evil, the
Mm,
the child asked the chief, and he addressed him as grandfather, and I tell you,
it
it hits me
touched
in the
you.
heart when I even
Yeah,
talk about it. He said,
yeah,
grandfather,
yeah, yeah.
why are men so conflicted? And he said, grandson, in every man there lives a white wolf and a black wolf. One represents good, one represents evil. And he said, and they are always battling. And
Where's
the
the
child
balance
said,
though, Ed? Where do you find the balance?
I
Because
still am looking for
some
balance,
people
Bev.
just, but it has to have a balance, correct?
I think our life is comprised of searching for that balance. I
Mm,
don't think we ever find it.
I
I
see.
honestly
I
don't.
see.
I'm going through
I
a part in my life where I'm running into some new things, and I'm finding that I'm having a hard time finding balance in juggling a very large business, a wife. We don't live together because of the condition of Philadelphia. She stays in Ocean City at our
Oh
condo.
wow, wow.
So she has her whole life down there. When the George Floyd things happened and the pandemic happened, my daughter went out of school and my wife and daughter went down to
Wow.
Ocean City, Maryland. And because everything declined so rapidly, that's
Yeah,
where they stay. Now she's back. She
yeah,
comes up here, I go down there.
yeah.
But there's still periods of loneliness. You're still looking for balance. And as soon as you think you found it in one thing, there are 72 other things that are going on in your life that the
Wow.
balance over here is not facilitating over here. So you
Gotcha.
have to find balance in all things, and it's a constant search as long as you're willing to look for it.
Amen.
When you say to hell with it, I'm
Yeah.
done looking, I'm going to give up, I'm going to be a criminal, I'm going to be a punk, I'm going to beat my wife, I'm going to light myself on fire, I'm going to shoot somebody. That's when you give up on your fight for balance. But
Yeah.
every good person that's still functioning to any degree of functionality
Any degree. Yeah. Yeah.
is looking for balance. They're
Yeah.
good people because they're still interested in attaining
Yeah.
balance. We're never going to find it. We find it when we die.
That is
It's the
true.
proverbial carrot that's jangled in front of our face and we constantly chase it.
Yes.
And as long as we're putting out the effort to chase it, we prove that we're decent people or want to be better.
Wow. That is so good. That's rich. That's an advice in itself, sir.
It came, listen, and I'm a hypocrite. I'm still looking for balance. I'm never going to find it.
Now
But
that you've mentioned it, I think you're right. In the Christian world, we call it the perfection. You're looking to be perfected, because God needs to perfect us, because he's coming back for the perfection of the church. In certain groups it may be called differently, but at the end of the day, it's the balance. It's a balance that we need in order to sustain, to maintain, to move forward. It has to. The minute you're off balance, it's either emotionally or whatever takes over. So yeah, it is, when you think about it, the
or
balance.
hormonally, it could be something that you have
It
absolutely
could
no
be
control over.
financially,
Financially, yep.
whatever it may
And
be,
let me tell you,
divorce.
I've had them all. I've had them
Yes.
all. I've been imbalanced, off kilter, thrown off by almost every faction in life.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, or whatever we want to say at this point,
Yeah.
I've been able to get through it, and I've been able to. It's Lambert always says, I guess he called me his Joshua or his Aaron. Somebody who always likes to fight, and
Yes.
I I almost enjoy the fight. I enjoy the fight. I
Mhm.
always fight. I make fights where there's not one warranted. I look at everything as a fight. When I get sick, it's a fight. I get a cold. I got COVID, and I said, okay, I'm going to make pineapple tea and inundate myself with vitamin C, and I'm not taking this doggone medicine, and I'm going to sweat it out, and I'm going to fight it out, and I did. When the karate school was closed, I didn't sit
Yeah.
there and say, woe is me. I said, I'm going to go to plan B because we always kind of had it.
Yes.
And it was very, very scary.
Yeah, yes, Ed. Talk about that, because a lot of businesses go through different transactions or transitions, whether, expanding or closing and starting a new business, reinventing themselves in whatever way. You've shown where you can reinvent yourself in
It
several
was
different
always kind
forms.
of a profession for us because we did the training and consulting for security.
Right. Because you were
So,
the security trainer for our church at Bethel Deliverance International. So, as Pastor Lambert introduced you with the Kim's Karate, you also trained most of our security men at our church.
and
So
now we provide you with security when you have big events.
yes, you do. I remember even you wanted the ushers. You had come to me because at that time I was the head usher, and you mentioned that you wanted us to be trained, and all these dainty ushers was like,
Well, no, no, no. It wasn't that I wanted you to be trained how to handle problems. I wanted you to be trained how to identify and signal security
yes,
on those problems. Oh no,
got
in
you.
no way did I want you little gals jumping in the middle of a problem.
We were a
But
little too
in
dainty
sign
for that,
language,
sir.
doing this and this and this to let security know you might have a problem. You guys are standing right there. You get a first sense of people,
Yes, we do.
waving your
Yes.
white gloves.
Yes, we did our things, but I know we are well familiar with a lot of the stuff that you do. So you've had extensive background with security. So now tell me, now I went into the website, because I always do. Yes, I sneak around. I snuck around at your website, and I went to the About Us page. So I'm going to read a little bit about you, Ed.
Okay.
So it says, Mr. Iannucci has been a security trainer and consultant for over 20 years. He advised and aided Philadelphia City Council with the Bouncer Law 9-3700 in 2011, and is an approved third party trainer. Mr. Iannucci has trained hundreds of facilities in the Mid Atlantic region. Ed is a standard of care specialist and has given expert testimony in over a dozen nightlife security cases, and has been on several TV and radio news broadcasts for his expert opinion. Ed is a defensive tactics specialist and a CPR first aid AED instructor, and uses his 15 years of experience working in the nightlife industry to implement training policies, procedures, and limited liability and provide a safe environment for both personal and partition. So you don't just provide the training, you are like deep in this thing. Even
Hmm.
with some of the laws, bouncer laws that was passed, you
Yep.
had some of something to do with that, which is very rich, which is really good. That's can you tell me a little bit about that? I'm so curious about that. As I was reading, I was like, wow.
Again, let's go back to me being a hypocrite.
Okay.
I I
If
was
that's what you want to call it.
when I was hired in the bars, it was because of my physical prowess and my ability to dish out disabling tactics on people. I guess we could say it like that.
Oh
Look,
my God.
look, when there was a problem, I had to solve it, and I did. And most of the time,
Physically, I'm
there was a
presuming you're
lot of
talking
violence, a lot of
physically.
violence. And you know what was cool about it?
Yeah.
It was after it was done, it was done. And then it came into, then people come back and shoot the club up, and then even worse, the owner would come up to me and say, "Hey, remember that guy you tuned up out back? Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
they're suing us."
Wow.
That was the scariest thing I ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't care the gangsters were coming for me. I didn't care that police came and asked who hurt this guy like that because nobody said anything. But when I heard we were going to court, I got very, very, very scared, and I said, "Wow." I went some years into it. I started changing everything. I got out of it um, late '90s
Mm,
because it just got way too dangerous. And
yeah.
not only did I not want to get hurt, but I didn't want to lose everything that I worked to have
Right.
by getting sued. So, getting back into the martial arts business, I was exposed to a lot of different tactics and different methods, and I saw one that would really fit well into the security field to prevent the injuries, prevent the lawsuits, and I picked the right one. I got involved with a specified tactics group and stayed with them for a very long time and implemented it into the bars and into security and then eventually into just self-defense.
Nice. Nice, Ed. Yeah, because the city of Philadelphia recognizes it. And then so you are approved as a third party trainer. And not now is it only in Philadelphia or is it like regional?
Now the law is only in Philadelphia. The good part is that the insurance companies have
Mhm.
adopted the theory of training as far as prevention.
Yeah.
And so now I've been written into insurance policies. And not just clubs here in Philly, from Philly to Jersey, it bound Bethlehem, it was out in Reading. I mean, we were doing
So
clubs out
does
that
this
way.
protect you in any way? Like, well, I know it protects you, but does to what extent? I guess I wanted to ask how to what extent does it protect you? Because Ed, we can't go around beating people up.
No, no. And
So yeah,
what I teach them is how to handle it without causing the injury, without punching, kicking, choking, throwing. Like your security knows how to just take people into a hold and walk them out the door, separate them in a fight, without hitting and choking and kicking and, just brutalizing people.
yeah,
You got to pay for that eventually. I always tell them you break it, you buy it. And if it's an arm or wrist, a finger, or jaw, you got to pay for it if you break
because
it.
it's liability. It's a lot of
And
liability.
then it falls back to the church. And
Yeah,
then they'll say, well,
yeah,
Ed taught me how to do
yeah.
this, and I have proof that I did this.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Because if someone gets hurt while you're doing all of that, now there's a lawsuit on your hands. I've always
And
been,
in 16 years
yeah,
of training that church, we haven't had one.
wow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty good, huh?
Which is really good. Which is really good. No, these guys, they are a station. They know how to do a thing, and I love it. I do. I love it. So, Ed, what are some of the programs or the things that you have out presently? Because I was again snooping around in your um website, and I see that there's a Philadelphia Bouncer law certification that you provide for people like every so often. How does that work, and what is that about?
We've been doing that for shit. I listen. I was training clubs since 2000. That law didn't have to pass, for
Yeah.
me to do it. I was already doing it. That's why City Council called me in to give them advice on it. Because every time you looked up nightclub security, you saw my name.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was called in on it, and we do it. DJ and I hold the courses. We try to do about 6, 7 a year, and it's not even my priority anymore because
Wow.
we have 60. Yeah, 50 employees in my new company, and we have guards spread out all over the place, and it's just taking up all my time.
Well, don't make it sound so fun, Ed.
Yeah, I'm just bubbling over with joy.
Don't don't make it sound that much fun,
It's like
But
herding
but I guess
cats.
with a job like that, I don't see you guys. I've never seen a bouncer smiling. Guys are
Well, we don't do
always,
bad. We don't send anyone. Even though I have all these security guards, we never
yeah.
staff a club, never staff a bar.
Mm.
I'll train a bar, but my company will not staff a liquor serving venue.
Oh wow, that's
Liability is too
good.
high,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
too
yeah.
much headache. I don't want it.
Too much headache. It usually ends up, yeah. Wow.
We do retail, property, um, things along those lines. Construction sites are our favorites. I mean, I keep it simple.
Yeah.
I
So I
keep
see
it
here your
very simple.
services: retail security, corporate commercial security, vehicle patrol, church security, armed, unarmed guards, uniform, plain clothes, hostile termination. So the hostile termination, so those are those irate
I love
employees
it.
that don't want
I
to
love those.
leave.
It's when I really like those.
Yes. We know who to call in case we have
Yeah,
some of those.
yeah, because when
Yes.
someone gets fired and they say they're going to come back and kill everybody,
Oh yes, yes.
yeah.
Like that postal situation that sometimes happen. Um
Well, my first job was up at a meat processing plant up in Wyalusing, Pennsylvania, and I'll
yes.
tell you what, some of the three of the best days I ever spent. I
Wow.
mean, it was a beautiful country up there. I mean,
Yeah.
way up in the mountains, Marie Antoinette Overlook. I mean, it's just a historic area. I love nature.
Yeah.
The people up there are different. They're a little country for me. You know how I'm a little afraid of them white
Little,
country folks.
yeah. Yeah.
And and it was just fun. It was a different place. I was
Yes.
somewhere else. I was getting paid $50 an hour to just
Mm-hmm.
stand there and talk to people. It was a humongous, humongous plant. I mean, I heard cows getting slaughtered all day, but I got used to it, and
The
it gave me a
what
new appreciation.
yes. That's what I was gonna ask. Was there
Well,
enough
here's the thing:
appreciation?
when they say they fired a guy who
Yes.
killed cows all day, and he said he's going to do something, I believe he's going to do so. I couldn't kill a cow. I couldn't kill a cow. These people slaughter cows all day. So I hear this guy saying he's going to come back, and all those people up there have hunting rifles.
Right.
So that was an interesting adventure. I literally found him up on a mountain, looking down his rifle scope at the front of the plant where I was standing, and I snuck up
How do
on him.
you
I
deal
had
with that stuff? So wait,
I
wait, 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 wait. This is the picture here you're painting. You're at a place and he's on top of the mountain
mhm,
looking down
with
with
a
a
rifle scope, literally pointing the rifle. So I have to do the environmental observations. So I said, I did my history on the fella, and I saw that he was very out of shape. So he wasn't going to come up and try anything physical with me. I figured he was going to try a vehicle attack because
yeah.
there was this huge COVID station out front where everybody had to stop and get their examination, and they had 1,000 employees. So I figured he'd come up with a car. So I had them set up the concrete dividers in a herringbone pattern so he couldn't just zip up the parking lot. He'd have to go around and not build up any velocity. And you'd see him coming,
Yes.
like an obstacle course. And then I said, okay, there's a tree line over there and there's a ridge over here. The tree line was easy to see. So I said, I'm going to take a ride up the side of that mountain and then walk up the rest of the way and see what kind of view I could get of the place.
Right.
I don't know what made me do it,
Yeah.
but I went up there and I knew his car, and I saw his car sitting there, and I walked up very quietly, and he was sitting against the tire of his car on the ground crying, and his rifle was next to him.
Oh my gosh.
And
Emotionally.
I had my gun in my jacket, and he saw me and he jumped, and I threw my jacket back and put my hand on my gun like Wyatt Earp. And I'm like, do not reach for that rifle. I'm up here to have a conversation. You know who I am. You've been looking down that scope at me for
Jesus.
2 days. So
Jesus.
we're just gonna sit here.
Yes.
And I put my gun on top of his truck, not even thinking he might have a friend. But I had a little backup in my ankle. But I had to show him good faith.
Yeah. This
And he
sounds
was
like
very
like
upset,
a picture from the movies.
very distraught young man, and he had a family.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, they've been talking about down there. It's the biggest and one of the only real employers in the region because it's a
Yeah.
very poor area." And I said, "Listen, they have a comeback program. You just go through their counseling and you get your job back, man.
Yeah.
Nothing's worth blowing everything." I talked him into it, and I said, "I'll tell you what." So I unloaded his rifle, and I said, "I'm going to drive away now, and I want you to think about this." And I even said, "I didn't see you up here. Let's just say
Mm.
I never saw you, and you stick with the same. If you want to tell them after I leave, that's fine. But that means you got to go in and talk to them."
Right.
I made friends with a couple of the plant managers, and I got home 2 weeks later on Facebook. He messaged me, the
Yeah.
plant manager, and said that the fella came back and he was much better, and he started going to church and he got his life together. So any chance I get to help somebody get their life together, I mean, that's another shekel for me to get into heaven.
Wow,
I need all the
Ed.
help I can get.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is a hostile termination.
Yeah,
My
quite a few of
gosh.
those.
Yeah. Well, at least you worked it out. I love the fact that there was a resolution in this. And he gave his life to Christ and like that ultimately, oh my gosh, that I have no idea what I would do in a situation such as that. Um but to
That's
God
why
be
I'm the
the glory.
security professional.
That's why you're the security professional. I will stick and stay in my lane and just stick to the business and the podcast. That's correct. But Ed, I want to ask you some questions. I want to move into some kind of personal questions now,
Uh huh.
and then we're going to share some information about your business so that people can call
Hold
you
on one
if they
second. I
want you.
need water. I need
Oh,
water. I'm
okay,
getting froggy.
okay,
Okay.
all right. So I'm going to ask you this: what is your biggest failure? What is the one thing that you felt was now we all have failures in life, but there's always this big failure, right? What is the one that you thought like, oh my gosh, this
I don't think that way.
yeah, you
I don't
got
think that way.
learning curves. But whatever it may be or however you may think, it's always
You mean a
something that
regret?
didn't work out. Hmm?
You mean a regret?
It could be a regret if that's what you want to classify it as. Yeah,
I
sure.
got through most what I needed to get through in life, so I don't look at it as failures. I mean, I repeated eighth grade. That was a failure. I can't take that back.
Yes. Yes.
But as far as failures, everything you only see failure when it happens. I mean, if you're any kind of person, a failure is only a failure if it's permanent. None of my shortcomings were ever permanent.
That's
I
good.
did something else
That's
to
good.
make it not. I mean, if I sit here and beat myself up over things,
Yeah.
you can't. It's an
Perspective.
anchor that's tied to your behind that you'll never get rid of if you look at it as a failure. That means surrender. And I'll tell you, I've been close, Bev, with my biggest, if I want to say it properly, I guess I'm always told, and we all are, that we're
Yeah.
our own worst enemy.
Yes.
And
Yes,
I
sir.
don't have failures. I have some regrets, but I fixed them. I don't know. There's nothing. I don't even know. Like maybe if you narrowed it down to a certain subject matter, I could answer.
Failure in business,
No,
failure in relationships.
no. I'm
No,
married 30 years. I'm with my wife 30 years.
that's what's up. So, pretty much, and that's probably a good thing because it also depends on your perspective of what a failure
Bev,
pretty much is. Because
I
some
closed
people
it.
use their stuff of whatever happens or may have gone not the way they wanted to as learning curves and better their lives because of it.
The karate school happened exactly the way it had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We were, I the only thing I liked about the karate school is the fact that I was able to work with the kids and work with people and help them not be victims.
What did you
My
like? What didn't you like about it? What
everything
was one
else.
of the things?
No, the parental apathy. You used to hear me talk about it all the time.
Yes,
How
yes.
parents don't care anymore. And I would get super insulted. I'm like, so wait a minute. Why do I seem to care more about your kid than you do? And
Mm,
some of the answers were very terrible. Even these parents say, I got three more of these little da, 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 da. I don't care. You know, it was just
wow.
total. I don't care. It's total. Well, if I ain't got the money, I ain't got the money. And you see the same people driving a Lexus. You see the same girls at the same nail salon
Yeah.
every week. You know, it was a communal apathy of all things parent. It was overwhelming. And then when the pandemic happened, listen, we were doing great right before it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was firing. We had the classes filled. We were doing bouncer
Yes.
courses. I had expert witness cases. Things were looking great. And then it came to a screeching halt. All three of my businesses came to a halt.
Yeah.
And I never saw any real government money because
Right.
I never paid myself on payroll because I was the business owner. I got
LLC.
the
Mm-hmm.
absolute minimum on unemployment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and I had to go out and do security work. I had to literally go out and do the work. And I didn't open, and that was the spring going into the summer. I didn't open Echo Delta Security until November. And it was the election day to where I had all these big companies calling me and saying, the company that was supposed to handle
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
in Philly shut down. We can't get a hold of anyone. And we have a national NBC contract that was riding on the guy that owned another company that I trained, consulted, and he gave me work.
Yes.
So they were like, he just mentioned your name. He goes, Ed Iannucci can handle this. I
Yeah.
wasn't even like live yet. I was still saving up money to pay the down payment on my insurance premium.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then all of a sudden, this big election day coverage came, and it was a huge thing. And these big companies are calling me, and I just found the money to do it and get my insurance policy ratified.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
went, then I went and staffed the job, and it's just been rolling in ever since. I mean, we did have some periods of slow, and it got scary. You know, I'm used to just the karate school never made me any real money. It provided a living.
Mm,
Sometimes didn't even do that. You know, there were more bad months than there were good months because it
mm.
was expensive to run that business.
Right.
Being in those malls were not cheap, and I don't know. It was
So it was more of a motivation than anything else.
when I heard COVID, and then I heard this weird flu-like disease, and we're going to shut everything down for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I said that's more like 2 months, and in
Mm.
2 months I'm just seeing twos, 2 months, 2 years, and it ended up
Mm.
2 years. And I said, well, DJ, I think it's time that we went on, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to open one or two more times during the summer, and we're going to see if people are willing to come back out. But I can't wait forever. And then my landlord wanted his rent, even though
Yeah. Of
we
course.
weren't
Got
supposed
to
to be
pay the
paying
bill.
rent.
Yeah. Got to
But
pay.
he told me he wanted his rent, and
Yeah.
that was like God tapping me on the shoulder, saying, "Ed, your season's over. It's time to
Wow.
move to the next one." And I
Wow.
said to DJ, "The hell with it. Let's do it." And I had a lot of support. A lot of people came to buy what was left of my school, to buy the equipment. All my kids that I mentored that do it
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm-hmm.
um, like they all came back, and I had a great time with them, and I saw them all
Yeah.
have tears in their eyes. Like people were crying while
Yeah.
they were cleaning out the school, and
Yeah.
I was jumping up and down inside,
Yeah.
like, "Yay! I finally get to get the hell out of here." This has been driving me crazy.
Yes.
And it hurt to say goodbye to some people. And Bev, some people, oh my God, it was like I heard angels sing when
Yeah.
I knew I never had to see certain people again. And I said, oh, thank God. No, this is great. And I know that I'm going to be in for a fight in between the karate school. And then the obstacles kept coming. No money for you. And then I'm seeing people having crab leg dinners.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, okay, everybody else is getting money but
So
me.
then it definitely was the motivation that kept you going with Kim's Karate, with the kids, the motivation of the kids, just
Yep.
encouraging the kids. So it definitely had to be the kids because it's something that kept you open for all these years. And even if it's the one or the two child or the one or two peach that graduated and their lives was impacted. So it was more than just the finances, just like you said. It
Well, I'll tell you a
was
story.
the right. Yeah.
During the pandemic, my son and I went food shopping. And again, I was feeling very low. I didn't have a lot of money. My son
Wow.
stayed with me, and he helped with the rent, and we
Yeah.
alternated groceries because he was working at Lowe's at the time. And, you know, they were one of the few stores that were allowed to stay open.
Wow.
And I'm just picking up security work. And we're walking through the store shopping, and a grandmother of an old student came up to me. And
Yeah.
this is in Huntington Valley. And the lady came up and talked about how her son grew up, got married, had a son,
Yeah.
and when he talks to his son, I'm gonna cry when I talk about this
Aww.
because I cried right in the. I was in the Giant and I started crying. She said, when my son raises my grandson and talks to him
Yeah.
about life and growing up, he said, Mr. Ed used to say this and be brave and never back down and he would and I was like feeling pretty low
Yeah.
at that particular point. My son's buying helping me out with groceries and
Yeah.
whatnot, And he put his arm around me and he says, "Dad, see, you didn't do it all for nothing."
You didn't, Ed. You really
I know.
didn't. You didn't do it for nothing. Do you and that's where my next question is gonna come from. How has God impacted you in this whole ordeal from the Kim Karate while, and I shouldn't say ordeal, but in this business? Because I know that that was another major thing for you. That you knew him, but you didn't know him, and then you got to know him even more during the course of Kim Karate. And I know that the journey was tough, but God would have never left you where you were. That's why I'm so praising Him for that. You have the extended journey that you have in the business world, because you were such a blessing with the Kim's Karate. I'm looking at where you are today,
Yeah,
but
it's different. It's
it
much
is
different.
different. So, what my question for you in looking back, what was the impact that God had in whatever was going on, even during the end of Kim's Karate to the transitioning through to the Echo Delta security services and
I
stuff?
guess it was the constant reminders, subliminal signs, what have you. I believe in signs and indications.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be sharp to them. You gotta look for them. You gotta listen for them. Um, I don't know. It was just every time I really felt like there was just no way out, something would come up. And it was the same thing during the karate school. Listen, when I met Lambert, when Lambert walked into my school and said he wanted to sign up his son, that was a very low point in my life. And I wasn't even there. One of my guys that worked for me, you remember the twins?
Yes. Yes, I
He
do.
said, we were doing a birthday party. They rent the school and do a birthday party. So I don't want them signing up people or even having the door open for people to walk in. It's a private party.
Yes.
So I came back and he said, I signed up a guy. I hope you don't mind. Really, really sharp guy. I think he's a detective or a professor or something. And he signed up his son. I figured I'd just let him try a month. I said, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And when I eventually met him, yeah, I'm like, yeah, this guy's cool. He's either a detective or a professor. Weird enough. Just very classy, well dressed, articulate, educated man.
Right.
And I didn't know who he was. And all I knew is that 300 was coming out at the time, and we were talking about Rome and Greeks. We were talking about ancient military, and we were talking about so many things. And then in the process, I told him I was an atheist somewhere along the line. So it was funny when I found out he was a preacher. It's a whole other story how I found out he was a preacher. Um, I said, "Wow, you never told me you were a preacher." He goes, "Well, you told me you were an atheist, and I like talking to you, and I thought maybe you wouldn't want to talk to me if you knew I was a preacher." It wasn't germane to our conversations, and
Sounds a little. That sounds like my pastor. Sounds
yeah,
like my
so
pastor.
that's how him and I hit it off right away.
It sounds a lot like my pastor. Don't like to put himself out there.
Mm-mm.
Very straight jacket,
When he'd come over my
very
house for
dignified.
parties,
Yes.
like if I
Yes.
was drinking a beer, people would look at me and look at him because I'm drinking a beer, and he'd say, "I'm Ed's friend, not his pastor. This is
Yeah.
his house. If my friend wants to drink a beer in his house, then leave the man alone." And by the way, if I drank beer, I would drink that beer because I was drinking Italian beer. And you know how he loves all
He
things Italian.
loves Italian. He speaks in Italian. My pastor is
Him and I
so
talk Italian.
diverse.
Him and I
Yes.
talk Italian when we talk about you
Really?
or anyone else, and we don't want them to know what we're saying.
I love it. He does too when he's on the altar.
I
And
know.
yeah, he's so into the Italian language and the people and such. I think he
You should have
really
seen
fell in
him.
love with it.
He did my sister's nuptials,
Yes.
and my whole family speaks Italian. So he left right away, and he was wearing his collar. So you know how Italians think the only religion in the world is Catholicism?
Yeah.
You're Roman Catholic or nothing, right?
Yes.
So he was wearing his collar. So as he was leaving, my uncle asked me in Italian, "Isn't Father staying for dinner?" And I said to my
Yeah.
uncle, "Why don't you ask Father?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, I'm pretty sure Father doesn't speak Italian." And I looked at Eric and I went, "Father?" And he started speaking Italian. And my uncles got all excited and surprised. And I said,
Wow.
"Yo, black people can learn languages too." And it
Yes.
was like, I was almost insulted when I saw how surprised my uncles were that a black man is speaking Italian. I'm like,
My
everybody can
pastor
learn
is so
Italian.
diverse in all the
So
things
funny.
that he does. And he
He's
is such a
Russian.
man of God. And I'm so happy he had a major influence in your life, God wise, because a lot of times a lot of pastors come into people's life and make no influence whatsoever. And that tells me a lot. Um, he went as he introduced most of the kids. I think it was a great undertaking that you had to go through. I think you just didn't know, coming from the background that you came from and dealing with the type of culture and the backgrounds that was coming at you. It became a little tough at times, but you endured, because I
Hmm.
know even in times there were other parents that would talk with me, and they would talk about how they didn't have enough money to pay, and some weeks they couldn't, and you worked with them. And for people who are living in neighborhoods where they are, end to meet and whatever, and they can't afford, you gave them the service, even though they may have not, had enough to pay. You provided the service for their children. And man, I'm telling you, Ed, that is big.
Well,
It's
I got to
really
tell
big
you,
and it's
I'm not going to
needed
take all
in
the
this
credit.
community.
I'm not going to take all the credit because Lambert would, Bethel, whatever, would
Oh
pick
my
up
gosh, he still does. He will
would
still,
pick up the
he
tab.
is such
But then
a,
again, Bev,
oh,
I saw these
it
parents. They're
wasn't
coming
right.
in
It
brand
wasn't,
new UGG boots, brand new UGG boots, getting their nails done every
it
week
wasn't
next
right.
door. And
Yeah.
Lambert's putting out money because they're going to him with the Poor Me Act. And I would say to Eric, I don't want you, don't give me any more money for that kid.
My
And I
pastor
know,
has
and
such a
he'd
big
say,
heart. I
not
love
the
him.
kid's fault. That's all he would say is it's not the kid's fault. And I
Yeah.
used to get so mad.
That's the thing though. But being a pastor, it's the heart that you have. That you carry God's heart. And it's something you have to ask yourself, what would God do? And it's something that God probably had told him to do. And I know how he is. He just won't do something without, knowing, because that's his heart. That
Right.
even till today, Ed, that's his heart. And for him to have you come on, you should know the person that he is and the influence that he carries. So we're grateful for you. We're grateful for Pastor. So one more question and then we're gonna just close out and you're gonna give some information about the Echo Delta. Um, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Wow. Calm down. And I haven't.
Still hype. Still,
Oh,
still got that. So is that boy, that boy inside, that 18-year-old boy inside of you still comes out every so often?
I think he's more like 11 or 12.
Wow.
I do. Listen, for a big guy, a capable guy,
Yeah.
a guy that everybody says we can feel your confidence around the corner. Is anybody really that confident? Inside, you're still a
Yeah.
scared child. Inside, every day is a new monster that you have to face. Inside yourself, you know that a situation could come up in a second's notice that throws your world off. And there's some of us, I guess they call us overthinkers, where we never walk through life like, what did pastors say? If you're too heavenly minded, you're no earthly good.
Yeah.
Because if you're walking around with your head in the clouds saying the Lord's going to protect me against everything, and I'm just going to have a blessed life, I'm blessed by the best, and
Right.
then the piano falls on your head, because you weren't looking up and you didn't know to move because you're too busy thinking about all the blessings you're going to get or have gotten. You got to keep your eyes on the world. You got to
Yeah.
keep your eyes on your surroundings, and you
Yeah.
got to know how to handle a problem
Yeah. Be
when it
alert.
comes up. And as soon as you think you can handle every problem, then you get a new one.
Yeah.
God likes to keep it fresh.
He sure does. And he listen, he comes up with some really good ones.
Oh, tell me
Stuff.
about it.
He comes up with some stuff that you're like, wait a minute, this new guy, this, little different than what
You
you
know what
had
I say?
thrown in from
You know what I
before.
say?
Yeah,
I say, of course.
of course.
Of course.
Of course. And if you were to be on an island, right, by yourself,
I get sunburned.
and they said you can't leave this island, you got to
Mhm.
stay here for the next 5 to 10 years and just be here by yourself. But you get to choose your favorite food and you get to choose the favorite person to come along with you. It will be prepared, everything will be ready and waiting for you. Who would you choose? And what
My
would be
wife.
the favorite food that you would choose? Now, the person cannot be dead. They can't be deceased. They can't be, you know, crazy crumped up
My
in your
wife.
mind. Your wife. Good.
Yes.
And what's the favorite food?
I don't know, whatever she wanted, because that's kind of how it is anyway.
But what is your favorite food?
Mine?
Yeah.
I don't even have one. It's like I eat everything.
Ugh.
All right. Okay. Seafood. Just seafood.
Oh, seafood. You love
Hmm.
seafood.
Love
Okay.
it.
Well, you'd be right in the vicinity anyway because you'd be on this island, correct? So, okay. The wife. That's a good one. That's very, very good. I had someone last week when I asked this question. She said she hasn't met that person yet. She would not pick anybody. She would
Was
just be
she
on the
married?
island by herself. No,
Was she married?
no,
Because if she was married, she'd be on
no.
an island by herself. Because her husband would leave her, and that would be it.
I guess the choice, you wouldn't even have a choice at that point, right? But Echo Delta Security Service. What made you pick that name, Ed? That is
Oh
such a um, military name.
no, it's
Echo
just
Delta
not even that
Security
deep.
Service.
It's not even that deep. It's
Yeah.
military alphabet. Ed, Echo,
Mm-hmm.
D for DJ, Delta.
Right.
Think of the military alphabet.
Yeah.
Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta.
Oh, see, you talking to the wrong one.
Well, E in military
But the
alphabet is
names that
Echo.
sound familiar. The names, you hear these names a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Echo Delta in Greek also means the look of change.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm learning something. I learned something today because I did not know that. Really. But I do
And
like it.
when we
What's
get
that?
calls from clients, I said, "How'd you hear about us?" They're like, "Well, we did a Google search, and man, you guys have the coolest name."
I'm just gonna say it. It's cool. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
It's just Echo Delta Security System. Providing protection is our priority.
Yep.
Yes,
I went
that's
with the
your.
P's.
Yeah. And so, if you guys want to reach Ed, because he provides so many different security system, and of course he provides training if you're like a club or because from what I'm hearing, Ed, you do not provide security system for anywhere that sells alcohol.
No, let's divert. Be specific.
Be
Security system
specific.
means an alarm. This security service.
Okay. So, if anyone's interested in getting in touch with Ed, please reach out to him. The email CDTPHILA, which is CDT Philly, right, Ed? At
Yes.
gmail.com. Stop me if I'm
Yep.
wrong. And the phone number in which you can call Ed, it's 215-868-5211. You can call Ed, you can email him, or you can go on his website. What's the website, Ed?
Echo Delta Security Services.com.
There you go. So it's www Echo Delta Security Services.com.
Yep.
And when we do get off this interview, his information will be at the bottom in the comment section where you can get his email, phone number, and his website if in the event that you are interested in reaching out to Ed about his training, about his security service, and all that he provides not just for companies, but for churches and other venues. So, Ed, is there any shout outs that you may have today? Anybody that you want to shout out? This is your time.
My partner DJ for putting up with me, and my wife, God help her. Oh, poor
Ah,
kidney.
yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I got to go make dinner.
Oh my goodness. Wait, she in Jersey or is she in Philly?
We don't do Jersey. We do Maryland.
Maryland now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she's
Okay.
home.
Yeah. Okay.
She's home.
Well, you tell her hi.
I will.
Tell her I send my love and tell your kids as well.
I will.
I know they're grown now, they're grown men and women. There's no longer kids, but to us, they're never grown. So tell them I said hi, and it was such a pleasure having you here, Ed.
I
Talking
appreciate it.
about your
Thanks.
history, man. Thank you so
Well,
much.
tell my girl I said hi.
Oh, my daughter, yes. I remember just like yesterday the big situation where she didn't want to go and you had to sit and talk with her and it was just so good. You just was really good with the kids, Ed.
Yeah, now
So
I hate kids. I can't wait to
yeah,
take that away from kids.
she needed it because I remember she was not as good at. There was a at age 13, that before the teen age,
Uh-huh.
13, I remember coming to you like, man, I'm having problems at school, I don't know what to do, and I remember crying, and I remember you just said, Beth, bring her to me. That's all you kept saying, just Beth, bring her to me, bring
Yep.
her to me.
And
And
she listened. She
yes,
listened.
she did.
She listened. Listen, even though my parents
Yes,
were
she
always there,
did.
they used to get mad at me because I always say it, the kids need, it's not that they're not listening to you, it's that they're used to your voice and they
Yeah.
no longer it's like chewing gum so long it has no more flavor.
Yeah.
So it's always that outside voice of influence that they'll just, you only have to ask them once. Where you'll be like, I told you to clean your room 20 times. Mr. Ed said clean your room, and you do it and you make your bed. Come
My
on.
God, homework was done. She was coming to class time after that. And I think you had her doing some things while, because she loved the karate. So when you put them to do the other things, they didn't like it. Whatever it was that you did, I did see a major difference. So that's what I'm saying to you. You work with us, not just, it wasn't just about teaching them those different, moves and,
Yeah.
all that stuff, but it was about community. It was about, the love and the one anothering and showing them how to be disciplined and how they do things. And I
One
remember my
another.
daughter always talking
That's
about,
exactly the word.
yes, man. I remember my daughter would say, "Mom, Mr. Ed says I can't use these types of moves for fighting. It's only for defense and for da da da." And it really played a part in her later teenage stage in life, and even in defending herself, where there were times she had to. She had to use that. They didn't know she was a belt. She had the belt, So, thank you, Ed.
They found out.
They she, listen. They show. I don't want to get into it on here, but yeah, yeah,
Nah,
yeah. Hospital was some. This the other child had to get some
great.
stitches and stuff.
Oh, I
So
mean, that's terrible. Oh, how could you do that?
So I am so grateful for you, Ed, and thank you for being on here. And we have a Kevin Rogers shouting out to you, saying, "May God continue to bless you, Ed." And I know that it's for
Thank you.
all of those who are going to view on P3 Christian Radio. For the listeners, viewers out there, thank you for supporting today. Thank you for supporting tonight. And look forward to seeing you next week. We have Ramona Mercer coming on, and I'm looking forward to seeing her next week. And without a further ado, thank you. It's
All right,
time to
Bev.
leave. Goodbye. Thanks,
Love you.
Ed. Love you too, man. Bye.